Hey, it's Jared. I have the Cinelive C1, a switching console that I could pretty much fit in my pocket. Now, I'm excited about this because I do a lot of live streaming and I often am kind of put in a small environment where I don't have a lot of room and I want as much functionality as I could get out of one device as possible. So what the Cinelive C1 gives me is the ability to switch up to 4 channels and also have my display right on the device, which means I don't have to have an external display, but I can use an external display as well. So the Cinelive C1 gives me those features and more. Let's talk about this little device. So first of all, just walking around the device, you can see I've got it plugged into a few cameras. You can see we've got our 4 HDMI inputs here, and we have 2 program outs. And so we can go out to 2 different monitors. We also have USB-C for the UVC, and this allows us for live streaming. So we can connect to a computer, and this device would be recognized as a streaming device or basically a webcam. And we could essentially send that out to whatever streaming service we wanted. And then of course, it also operates over LAN as well. And what's great about that is that you just plug it into the network and you can stream straight from the device. So let's take a look now at the right side of the device, which has a USB type A port, a USB-C connector for a tally, like a recording tally. We also have a headphone jack and 2 microphone inputs on the device as well. And this also supports audio over HDMI also. So you might be thinking, you've never heard of CINETREAK, why trust this company? Well, I had never heard of them either, but I was looking at smaller devices and I think their documentation is good. Like everything seems to be pretty good, and I haven't had any issues with it live streaming, and I've also used it for just live switching a few smaller projects. So on the front of the device, we have lots of buttons. We have a lock button that allows us to lock all the buttons down so that we don't make any changes unintentionally. We have the mute button, which I have on right now because out of my program channel, it was putting audio out of my monitor. I was getting a little bit of feedback, so I just muted the whole thing really easily. We have the ability to add a logo. So as you can see, I just loaded basically a little photo of myself in here, and I'm able to add a logo to the top right-hand corner. We can also add audio tracks in here as well. We have different effects for when we cut between the different scenes. And so we've got mix and dip, and we've got a whole bunch of different options here as well. And then if we hit auto, you can see it's just kind of a nice fade between the two. If we go over to dip and select dip, we can dip just like that. Pretty simple. Pressing effects again. Let's take a look at, what is this, like a barn doors or something? Well, yeah, it just opens up from the center. So lots of different options here. I want to see what this like opening up like a pie. That'll be interesting. Lots of options here for transitions, and that's great. I just like a good old-fashioned mix, and so we're just going to leave it on mix. That's awesome, just basic. We also have scenes available as well, so we can go full screen. We could do a side-by-side. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hit record because I have a USB drive attached right here. I actually just have a SSD, and I'm just going to hit record, and that way you'll be able to see the output. So right now, the output is me, and we're recording in 1080p. Of course, I produce these videos in 4K, so I've just got this off to the side as a smaller screen, because if I take the 1080p full resolution, it's going to be a little bit lower quality. Let's take a look at that side-by-side, make sure that we're live with that side-by-side, and then we're just getting the program between the 2 different channels. So we've got both here side by side and a background photo that we can load in, and I just used one of the default photos that it had in there. We also have a kind of picture-in-picture, and so now we've got camera A as the main camera, and then we have the top-down camera down in the bottom corner, and we also have the flip of that. We have this option here for basically 4 channels. If we had 4 channels connected, we'd have all 4 quadrants, which would be great. And we'd probably even have more options here, but because we just have an A and a B camera also, and we don't have like a C and a D camera, that's the options that we're going to get. So this is great because I'm able to do split screen and everything on the fly, really simple. We also have A and B just to switch between our A and our B camera or bring it on the screen, just kind of punch it in really quick and have it there. We also have chroma keying, and so we can chroma key. I don't have any like green screen or any examples that I could use right now, so you can see it's kind of keying out the background. Let me see if I could switch the cameras here. So you can see it's kind of chroma keying right through my arm, and this is not green, chroma key green or anything like that. It's just doing a pretty good job of detecting the object and keying it out, which is really interesting. And we can do a luma key as well, which is a little bit different. It's not going to have the same effect there. And then we have 2 buttons on the bottom for PTZ camera control. So this actually can control a PTZ camera, which is amazing. So if you had a PTZ camera connected over Ethernet to this device, with this little toggle here, with this little D-pad, you could control that camera and move it around, which makes this extremely useful if you have those types of cameras available. And then of course the positional recording as well for that. We have our 4 channels here, and our live camera is in red and our standby camera is in green. And so if we switch between the 2 cameras, you can see that switch there. And we have a stills button so that we can add a still in here. If you have images loaded on your drive, you can load them onto this device, as well as logos like I did with that logo image of myself, and then also patterns. We then have the auto for switching back and forth, and then we can do hard cuts as well, which is great. And then if you want to get creative, we also have the slider, so we can slide and run that transition at our own pace. Now, what's really cool is the menu is all available right here, and it's very easy to navigate. You simply push down and rotate, and we can set things like the effect duration, softness, and all that good stuff. Change the color on the dip transition. We also can make adjustments to our layers here and make adjustments to different sources, resizing things, shape masks, choosing what type of keyer we want, and also setting specific colors. Oh, that's why it was actually keying out my arm, because it was detecting that as black. And so you can come in here and set specific color values for the chroma keying as well. And then also for the luma keying, basically setting the intensity of the luma key. We have individual audio control for all of our channels. And then moving over, we have where we can select images and bring images in. You can see there are some images that are loaded already. And then we have some logos that come in. And of course, I threw in that logo of myself so that I could use that as an example, which was kind of cool. Our encoder has 2 different options, H.264 and MJPEG. And for H.264, we could change the frames per second and the bit rate, which is great. So depending on what kind of output you want for this, we can encode that file, make it larger or smaller based on how heavy of a stream we want to push out to our streaming service. And so this would be something that you'd want to control based on how good of an internet connection you have. And then of course, our stream and record, it's showing me how much space I have left on the hard drive that's connected. Got plenty of space, which is great. Moving on down, we have the ability to customize our level meters and hide them if we don't want them on, and that's available per channel, which is great. You can see I have both of them turned on here, so I'm seeing a live representation of the audio levels that both of my cameras are capturing. Moving down, we have the ability to change our camera frame rates, so 1080p all the way down to 24, which is great. And then we can change the color as well. And here's where we would connect and control the PTZ camera features. And so we can come in here and control up to 4 cameras, which is pretty amazing. And then connect the IP addresses, search for that camera on our local network, change auto or manual focus, control our exposure and our white balance. And then we have the settings for the device itself. So we could change the language of the device, choose whether we want the fan on auto or off or just on all the time. And then we can set our time, we can connect to our network, we can update firmware, and then there's also a QR code that you can scan to get a digital version of the manual online, which is great. This device, what I really like about it is just how compact it is. There's a few other little features like a 1/4-20 mount on the bottom. And then if I can flip this thing over without disconnecting anything, we also have VESA mount on the back of it as well. And so this is very versatile in that respect that you could mount this on some sort of a stand and control it that way, or even mount it on a 1/4-20. You could mount this on a camera if you wanted to, but most likely you would probably mount this maybe even on some sort of director stand or some sort of station that you can utilize for control, where you'd be able to run all of these cables and connect everything easily. So the reason that I decided I wanted to look at this is simply because it has a screen on it and everything is built in. And this is the only device I would need to handle a live stream, whether it be for a podcast or a larger production where I just needed to connect up to 4 cameras and stream either through a computer using USB-C or stream over an RTMP protocol, which it can do as well. So check this device out. It is linked up in the description below for you to check out. I think this is a great option. I haven't had any issues with it at all. It's very stable and extremely small. So for those of you that need a compact solution, the Cinelive C1 from CINETREAK is a great solution. So if you have any questions about it, I'll do my best to answer that below. If you haven't seen my live streaming setup video that I put out a few months ago, I walked through my entire live streaming setup. I wasn't utilizing this device, but it walks through how I connect my cameras, how I run a live streaming setup for a production as a solo person running multiple cameras. So make sure to check out that video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you back in another one soon. Take care.